bringing about change by organizing the competition of public sector innovations or COPSI. This aligns with the vision of the undergraduate program in public financial accounting to produce world-class, sustainable graduates in public sector accounting who contribute to the global order through the open and distance higher education supported by the latest technology. This makes me proud of the progress and agility of this program. I am increasingly confident in pursuing a career in the public sector, and I am ready to be an agent of change, building the future of public accounting to accelerate better public services. Have an international career? Absolutely, because the learning materials already include national and international standards, such as the International Public Sector Accounting Standards or IPSAS, and its curriculum has adopted the Kerangka Kualifikasi Nasional Indonesia or KKNI and International Educational Standard or IES from the International Federation of Accountants or IFHEA. The majority of the instructors are internationally certified by CIPSAS and come from practitioners. How long is the study period on this program? The normal study period is 4 years or 8 semesters. This program also accepts transfer students through credit transfer schemes via the recognition of prior learning pathway. For partnerships, the undergraduate program in public financial accounting has established partnerships and actively participate in national and even global associations such as the Ikatan Akuntan Indonesia, Department of Accounting Educators, the Association of Chartered Certified Accountants or ACCA, the Asian Associations of Open Universities or AAOU, and the International Council for Open and Distance Education or ICDE. The undergraduate program in public financial accounting was founded in 2015 and commenced operation in 2017. It is supported by the latest technology, allowing students to pursue higher education while working, enabling students to advance their career or maintaining their current ones. We can proudly say that this program has achieved numerous milestones, accredited by the National Accreditation Agency for Higher Education. 11 out of 13 lecturers of the undergraduate program in public financial accounting are internationally certified by CIPSAS. Its students have achieved national and even international recognition. 4. An active academic atmosphere with collaborative research between lecturers and students resulting in reputable publication. Furthermore, the undergraduate program in public financial accounting also contributes to bringing about change by organizing the competition of public sector innovations or COPSI. This aligns with the vision of the undergraduate program in public financial accounting to produce world-class, sustainable graduates in public sector accounting who contribute to the global order through the open and distance higher education supported by the latest technology. This makes me proud of the progress and agility of this program. I am increasingly confident in pursuing a career in the public sector, and I am ready to be an agent of change, building the future of public accounting to accelerate better public services. Have an international career? Absolutely, because the learning materials already include national and international standards, such as the International Public Sector Accounting Standards or IPSAS, and its curriculum has adopted the Kerangka Kualifikasi Nasional Indonesia or KKNI and International Educational Standard or IES from the International Federation of Accountants or IFAC. The majority of the instructors are internationally certified by CHIPSAS and come from practitioners. How long is the study period on this program? The normal study period is 4 years or 8 semesters. This program also accepts transfer students through credit transfer schemes via the recognition of prior learning pathway. For partnerships, the undergraduate program in public financial accounting has established partnerships and actively participate in national and even global associations such as the Ikatan Akuntan Indonesia, Department of Accounting Educators, the Association of Chartered Certified Accountants or ACCA, the Asian Associations of Open Universities or AAOU, and the International Council for Open and Distance Education or ICDE. The undergraduate program in public financial accounting was founded in 2015 and commenced operation in 2017. It is supported by the latest technology, allowing students to pursue higher education while working, enabling students to advance their career or maintaining their current ones. We can proudly say that this program has achieved numerous milestones. Accredited by the National Accreditation Agency for Higher Education. 11 out of 13 lecturers of the undergraduate program in public financial accounting are internationally certified by CHIPSAS. Its students have achieved national and even international recognition. 4. An active academic atmosphere with collaborative research between lecturers and students resulting in reputable publication. Furthermore, the undergraduate program in public financial accounting also contributes to bringing about change by organizing the competition of public sector innovations or COPSI. This aligns with the vision of the undergraduate program in public financial accounting to produce world-class, sustainable graduates in public sector accounting who contribute to the global order through the open and distance higher education supported by the latest technology. This makes me proud of the progress and agility of this program. I am increasingly confident in pursuing a career in the public sector, and I am ready to be an agent of change, building the future of public accounting to accelerate better public services.
Unlock your future with flexible learning. At the end of 2021, Universitas Terbuka obtained approval to become a state university with legal entities from the Minister of Education, Culture, Research and Technology of the Republic of Indonesia. Universitas Terbuka, the 45th state university in Indonesia. Universitas Terbuka has served to fulfill the government's vision of equitable access to higher education for all. Thus, UT contributes in accelerating the increase in higher education gross enrollment rate with service coverage in 515 city districts and in more than 50 countries. UT has 39 regional offices and 1 office for overseas students. As a university that implements open and distance education system, the learning process in UT is carried out through independent learning using structured learning material and various information technology-based learning resources. There are 4 faculties offered. Faculty of Education and Teacher Training, Faculty of Economics and Business, Faculty of Science and Technology, and Faculty of Law, Social and Political Sciences.
Welcome to the Faculty of Economics and Business, Universitas Terbuka.
The Faculty of Economics and Business has a vision to become a world-quality open and distance higher education institution in producing, organizing, developing, and disseminating economic and business information. To achieve this vision, the Faculty of Economics and Business has three missions. First, to provide access to world-quality higher education for the economic and business fields for all levels of society through open and distance learning system. Second, to study and develop a distance education system in the economic and business fields. Third, to utilize and disseminate the results of scientific studies in economics and business, as well as institutional studies to answer the challenges of national development needs in general, cross-sectoral, and regional development in particular. The Faculty of Economics and Business has 6 study programs: Management, Tourism, Accounting, Public Financial Accounting, Economics Development, Sharia Economics, where most of them are accredited A. The study program curriculum is developed with reference to the vision, mission, and objectives of Universitas Terbuka. The structure of the curriculum contains various components that characterize its nature as a distance education institution that has broad reach and world quality. Currently, the Faculty of Economics and Business has more than 130,000 students that scatter all over Indonesia and abroad. With a huge number of students, we are designed to synergize with other universities and institutions. These resource sharing between other universities and institutions include the development of printed and non-printed learning materials, examination materials, and recruitment of tutors, either face-to-face or online tutorials. Since the COVID-19 pandemic, the number of online tutorial classes has increased significantly. Currently, we have more than 10,000 online tutorial classes managed by more than 3,600 tutors. Our collaborations not only involve universities within Indonesia, but also overseas. The partnership includes the development of courses, exchange of students and staffs, joint research, development of human resources expertise, as well as exchange of publication. Some of our lecturers also have gained recognition both nationally and internationally. These include awarded the best paper in international conferences and received research grant from the government. Besides academic activities, we constantly encourage our students to be involved in the activities that support the improvement of competence, personality, and professionalism at local, national, and international levels. As a response to the UN Sustainable Development Goals of education and lifelong learning, we provide high flexibility to students to pursue their education in accordance with their circumstances. Build a better future with the Faculty of Economics and Business Universitas Terbuka.
Recording in progress.
Oke. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat siang dan salam sejahtera untuk kita semua. Yang terhormat, pada narasumber, moderator, Kaprodi, dan juga Sekjen FDAP, serta semua peserta seminar yang kami hormati. Puji syukur kita panjatkan kehadirat Tuhan Yang Maha Esa, karena atas rahmat dan karunia-Nya lah kita dapat hadir dalam acara hari ini, yaitu seminar internasional Public Sector Budgeting, Rational versus Political Process pada hari ini dalam keadaan sehat walafiat. Pada hari ini, merupakan seminar yang diselenggarakan sebagai wadah diskusi ilmiah khususnya di lingkungan Universitas Terbuka mengenai anggaran di sektor pemerintahan atau di sektor publik. Dalam 2 jam ke depan kita akan menggali lebih dalam bagaimana proses berbasis data dan analisis yang berkaitan dengan politik. Sebelumnya izinkan saya memperkenalkan diri. Nama saya Hurian Kamela, biasa dipanggil Mela. Saya merupakan dosen di Universitas Terbuka, Prodi Akuntansi Keuangan Publik, yang akan memandu acara ini sampai selesai. Selanjutnya untuk rundown acara ini berjudul Public Sector Budgeting, Rational versus Political Processes. Waktu dimulai jam 14.00 sampai jam 16.00 waktu Indonesia Barat. Durasi 2 jam. Rangkaian acara kurang lebih yang pertama adalah online registration. Selanjutnya adalah opening ceremony. Yang ketiga yaitu welcoming speech. Dimulai dari Sekjen FDAP, Ibu Dr. Ridap Perwatisari. Dan yang kedua adalah sambutan dari The Head of Public Financial Accounting Study Program FEBUT, Ibu Ratna Marta Dewi. Dan selanjutnya adalah photo session. Setelah photo session selesai, kita akan ada sharing session, yaitu oleh narasumber kita, yaitu Bapak Vogy Gautama Buanaputra. Question and answer, dan kesimpulan serta penutupan dari kegiatan seminar ini. Selanjutnya, untuk peserta mohon mematikan mic-nya, karena kita akan memulai acara ini secara langsung. Oke, baik Bapak dan Ibu sekalian, sebelum kita memasuki pemaparan materi, izinkan saya memperkenalkan moderator dan narasumber yang telah berkenan hadir di dalam seminar hari ini. Untuk moderator kita yaitu Bapak Krisetyo Yulianto yang merupakan dosen Prodi Akuntansi Keuangan Publik di Universitas Terbuka, dan juga ada narasumber kita yaitu Bapak Vogy Gautama Buanaputra. Silakan Bapak Krisetyo untuk melanjutkan.
Gimana nih?
Baik, terima kasih atas kesempatan yang sudah diberikan ke Ibu Hurian Kamela selaku Master Ceremony ya pada sesi siang hari ini. Untuk selanjutnya agenda kita adalah untuk menyampaikan lagu Indonesia Raya dan juga himne UT. Mohon bantuannya untuk tim ICT agar bisa membantu untuk menampilkan terlebih dahulu.
Salah. Yuk standby yuk.
Bersama
Baik, terima kasih. Untuk selanjutnya dipersilahkan kepada Ibu Rida Perwitasari untuk bisa memberikan kata sambutan terhadap acara pada siang hari ini. Kemudian selanjutnya dilanjutkan oleh Ibu Ratna Mata Dewi selaku Ketua Program Studi untuk bisa menyampaikan kata sambutan selaku perwakilan dari Kepala Program Studi Akuntansi Keuangan Publik.
Baik, terima kasih Pak Kris. Izin menyampaikan dalam bahasa karena MC dan moderator juga dalam bahasa. Terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat siang Bapak Ibu semuanya. Yang terhormat Ibu Ratna Marta Dewi, Ibu KPS Prodi KPS Akuntansi Keuangan Publik Universitas Terbuka. Yang terhormat narasumber hebat kita pada siang hari ini, Mr. Vogy Gautama Buanaputra, Ph.D. AFHEA, sebagai speakers ya di International Lecturing 2025 ini. Yang terhormat para tamu undangan, dosen, mahasiswa, sama seluruh peserta diskusi kita siang ini yang sangat-sangat saya banggakan. Saya sangat berterima kasih. Saya mewakili Bapak Ketua Forum Dosen Akuntansi Publik, Profesor Dr. Ali Muktianto yang hari ini belum bisa hadir. Salam hormat dari beliau untuk para peserta dan narasumber hebat pada siang hari ini. Beliau ada tugas luar sehingga saya merepresentasikan sebagai representatif forum dosen akuntansi publik. Nah, siang hari ini kita sama-sama akan belajar bersama terkait International Lecturing 2025. Pertama-tama marilah kita panjatkan puji syukur kehadirat Allah Subhanahu wa taala, karena atas rahmat dan karunia-Nya lah kita bisa berkumpul pada hari ini dalam kondisi sehat, tidak kekurangan suatu apapun. Kita bertemu dalam forum ilmiah dengan tema Public Sector Budgeting, Rational versus Political Process. Ya. Kita seperti yang kita ketahui bahwa penganggaran dalam sektor publik itu bukan sekedar proses teknokratis tentang menghitung angka dan bagaimana merancang alokasi dana. Lebih dari itu, penganggaran itu merupakan cerminan dari prioritas kebijakan, dinamika kepentingan, bahkan konflik berbagai antar kepentingan aktor di dalam pemerintahan itu sendiri. Memang di satu sisi pendekatan rasional menuntut dasar logika, efisiensi dan pertanggungjawaban berbasis data. Akan tetapi di sisi lain kita juga tidak bisa menutup mata bahwa proses politik melalui lobbying, kompromi, bahkan tekanan kekuasaan pun itu seringkali menjadi penentu arah alokasi anggaran. Salah satunya di negara kita yaitu di Indonesia. Dalam konteks ini kita perlu bertanya, sejauh manakah idealisme rasional itu dapat bertahan di tengah realitas politis yang sangat kompleks seperti hari ini? Dan bagaimana kita sebagai akademisi dan calon praktisi di bidang akuntansi, kebijakan publik, terutama di akuntansi keuangan publik ini bisa mendorong terciptanya sistem penganggaran yang adil, transparan, dan akuntabel. Melalui forum ini saya berharap kita semua dapat saling berbagi pemikiran, pengalaman, serta melakukan refleksi kritis terhadap praktik penganggaran yang ada di negara kita, baik juga secara global. Mari kita jadikan sesi ini sebagai ruang pembelajaran bersama demi peningkatan tata kelola keuangan publik di Indonesia yang jauh-jauh lebih baik. Selamat berdiskusi, selamat berwebinar. Semoga forum ini bermanfaat bagi kita semuanya. Terima kasih. Saya kembalikan ke Pak Kris, silakan.
Terima kasih Bu Rida ya atas kata sambutan yang luar biasa. Untuk selanjutnya dipersilakan kepada Ibu Retna Marta Dewi selaku Kepala Program Studi untuk bisa memberikan kata sambutan.
Baik Bapak Kris, terima kasih banyak. Kalau saya izin pakai bahasa Inggris ya Bapak Ibu, supaya terkesannya tetap ada aroma internasional ya gitu ya. Mohon izin ya. Oke, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon everyone and welcome to the International iLecturing Series hosted by the Public Financial Accounting Study Program Universitas Terbuka in collaboration with the Forum Dosen Akuntansi Publik IAI KAPD. It's my distinct pleasure to extend a warm welcome and sincere appreciation to our distinguished speaker, Bapak Vogy Gautama Buanaputra, Ph.D, AFHEA from Cardiff University, United Kingdom. Hello, Bapak Dr. Vogy.
Hi, Buratna. How are you?
Yeah,
Good.
I'm fine. It's truly a pleasure to meet you. Yeah, Dr.
nice to see you
Vogy
too.
is one of Indonesians esteemed diaspora. Yeah. Okay, Dr. Vogy is one of Indonesians esteemed diaspora academic in the UK, and it's bring me great joy to reconnect with you, and in this new context and setting. I would also like to express heartfelt thanks to the organizing committee for their unwavering commitment in bringing this event to life, and all participants for your enthusiastic attendance today. This International iLecturing Initiative is a recurring academic event held every semester, designed to deepen our collective understanding of key topics within public financial accounting. Through this platform, we engage in comparative dialogues with international experts from diverse academic and professional backgrounds. Today, our focus will be on the public accounting course. Over the next 2 days, we will explore two compelling themes. First, public sector budgeting, rational versus political processes, and the second, artificial intelligence in the public sector. We hope this program enriches our perspective on public sector accounting and inspires to contribute more meaningful to public service excellence as aspiration that resonates with our program tagline, building the future of public accounting to accelerate better public services. Finally, I encourage you to actively participate, pose questions, and engage with this discussion. Our speaker is more than willing to elaborate and share further insights. Thank you, and I wish you a rewarding and insightful experience through the program. Jika tidak keberatan, Bapak Vogy nanti boleh menyampaikannya dalam bahasa Indonesia dan mix bahasa Inggris juga boleh Bapak ya. Terima kasih dan wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Baik, terima kasih Bu Ratna atas kata sambutannya sudah diberikan. Oke, tidak perlu berlama lagi ya. Kita akan masuk ke sesi utama. Jadi diskusi ini adalah merupakan tujuannya untuk menggali ya secara kritis dinamika penganggaran sektor publik, khususnya dalam konteks tarik-menarik antara pendekatan rasional berbasis data dan kinerja yang versus dengan pendekatan politik atau berbasis kekuasaan dan kepentingan. Dengan menghadirkan narasumber ahli bidang tata kelola keuangan publik, peserta saya harapkan dapat memahami bagaimana penganggaran yang sering terjadi dan juga arena terhadap kontestasi legitimasi antara aktor teknokratis dan politis, serta implikasinya terhadap akuntabilitas dan kualitas dari proses penganggaran publik itu sendiri. Hadirin sekalian, merupakan kehormatan besar bagi kita semua karena hari ini kita akan mendapatkan wawasan langsung dari seorang pakar intelektual Indonesia yang berkiprah di Universitas Cardiff, Inggris. Perkenankan saya memperkenalkan narasumber kita hari ini. Mohon komite untuk dibantu CV-nya yang CV dari narasumber untuk kita bisa paparkan bersama. Siti, mohon bantuannya untuk pemaparan CV dari narasumber. Baik, Bapak Dr. Vogy Gautama Buanaputra, beliau adalah seorang akademisi dari peneliti di bidang akuntansi sektor publik dan tata kelola. Saat ini beliau menjabat sebagai asisten profesor di Cardiff Business School, Cardiff University, Inggris, dan salah satu sekolah bisnis ternama ya di dunia. Tak hanya itu, beliau juga dipercaya sebagai Ketua Pusat Sektor Publik Komite Nasional Kebijakan Governance atau KNKG Indonesia pada periode 2025 sampai dengan 2029. Hal ini merupakan sebuah peran strategis ya dalam membangun tata kelola yang baik di Indonesia. Dan Bapak Dr. Vogy juga memiliki pengalaman akademik dan manajerial yang luas, termasuk sebagai Direktur Program Sarjana Akuntansi dan Direktur Studi Sektor Publik dan Perpajakan di AFHEA UGM. Mungkin bisa dibantu scroll juga ke bawah ICT. Kemudian beliau juga melakukan penelitian ya dengan publikasi di jurnal internasional berreputasi seperti Public Administration dan Accounting Forum. Kemudian Bapak Dr. Vogy juga menyelesaikan pendidikan doktoralnya di University of Essex, Inggris, dan telah menghasilkan berbagai publikasi di jurnal bereputasi tinggi, termasuk jurnal Public Administration yang masuk dalam kategori ABS 4 Star, artinya merupakan jurnal paling bergengsi dan berpengaruh di dunia akademik. Kemudian di samping itu beliau juga terlibat dalam berbagai proyek riset berdampak seperti penyusunan pedoman tata kelola sektor publik di Indonesia, analisis akuntabilitas program sawit ada di Aceh, serta reformasi tata kelola dana abadi pendidikan di Bojonegoro. Nah, mungkin bisa dibantu juga di kebawahan case. Ya, baik, terima kasih Siti. Kemudian atas kontribusinya ia telah meraih sejumlah penghargaan seperti Best Paper Awards dari ISM Public Sector Conference dan Asian Academic Accounting Association. Selain itu, beliau juga mengajar di berbagai tingkat pendidikan. Ia juga aktif sebagai pembicara, reviewer jurnal internasional, bahkan staf penggerak kegiatan akreditasi pendidikan tinggi. Dan harapannya keahliannya juga dapat bisa berdampak pada diskusi pada sesi pada hari ini. Lebih dari itu juga, beliau juga dikenal aktif mendorong reformasi kebijakan sektor publik, termasuk isu-isu tata kelola keuangan daerah. Nah, penghargaan demi penghargaan juga telah beliau raih untuk menunjukkan kualitas ilmiah sekaligus dampak nyata dari karya beliau. Dengan tema yang akan dibawakan hari ini adalah Public Sector Budgeting Rational versus Political Processes. Saya yakin kita akan mendapatkan banyak insight dan tidak hanya secara akademik tapi juga praktis untuk perbaikan tata kelola di berbagai sektor. Tanpa berpanjang kata, mari kita sambut Dr. Vogy Gautama Buanaputra dengan penuh apresiasi yang akan membedah bagaimana proses anggaran di sektor publik dipengaruhi oleh tarik-menarik antara rasionalitas dan politik kekuasaan. Waktu kami persilahkan, silahkan Bapak Dr. Vogy untuk waktu dan layar kami persilahkan.
Okay, alright. Thank you very much, Chris, for the introduction. So, before I start my lecture today, I would like to say thank you to undergrad program in public sector accounting, Open University, for inviting me here. And then I would like to say thank you as well for Ibu Rida for the introduction as well from Ph.D. AFHEA, right? And then I think this is also very good opportunity for me because I just realized that if I'm not mistaken, undergrad program in public sector accounting, I think it's only available from Open University in Indonesia, if I'm not mistaken. Not many accounting program in Indonesia, not only in Indonesia, I guess, even in the world. So they don't specifically open public sector accounting undergrad programs. So I think this is my appreciation for Open University as well. Even before I moved to the UK, I was trying to open the public sector accounting program at undergrad level. So this is very, very good initiative, I think. So before I start my topic, I will deliver the topic in English, and then if you have any questions or comments, just say it in both either English or Indonesian language. And if you don't mind, also I usually prefer to have more like interactive session instead of one way delivering lecture is quite boring, I think, because I believe most of your students also they're Gen Z, and then they demand more interactive discussions during a lecture. Usually, this is my experience as well in the past. So I'm gonna share my screen.
Ya,
All right, where's the? Okay, I'm gonna share my PowerPoint. Can you see PowerPoint in full screen? Can you see it? Anyone?
maybe
Yeah.
Clear, Mr. Vogy.
Is it full screen or double screen? You see?
Double
Double
screen.
screen.
maybe close.
Okay, I'll switch to. How about now?
Okay, single screen.
Okay, thank you. So, all right. I'm gonna start my session today. So as you, I can't move. All right. So I'm gonna start my session today. As you also have mentioned at the beginning of this session that we are going to discuss. Actually, as Ibu Ridia also mentioned at the beginning of these sessions, this topic is not new. So this is a very traditional topic in public sector accounting, public budgeting, not only in accounting field, but also this discussion was initiated in political science, public administration, literature. This is a very, very traditional issues, but so many things haven't been researched, haven't been dig deeper, so that there are so many opportunities to do research in this kind of topic, rational versus political process, or some other scholars call it rational versus irrational approach of public sector budgeting decision making. So, as the introduction, hopefully just for refreshing your fundamental background of public and private sector. So, as you know, don't forget the main objective of these two organizations. So the first one, private sectors, I think most of you have known about the objective of the private sectors organization, which is the corporations. So their main objective is, of course, making profit. So how to measure their performance? Just look at their profit. So in short, all right. However, on the other hand, if we talk about public sector organizations, so I'm gonna focus on government organization when I say public sector, because government organization is one of the well-established kind of organization in public sector. So that when I mention public sector, it's usually refers to government organizations. So that in public sector organizations, their main objective, of course, making public value, providing public services. So in a sense, if you want to measure the performance of public sector, whether public sector or government provide or perform in a good way, so we need to see whether they have been providing good public services, good public value to the public. But the question is, measuring public value, measuring public services is very difficult, not only in Indonesia but anywhere in this world. So that, as I said before, research in public sector keep developing, even in this traditional topic, rational versus irrational process, and then how to measure the performance of public sector organizations. So they keep developing in this kind of topic. The research anywhere in this world. So that this is the beginning of our discussions of our session today. So, as I said before, public sector organization, they can consist of many kind of organization, many types of organizations, and then from the literature itself, sometimes the public sector organization also is complex terms. Mainly, they agree that public sector organization usually provide public services, but they can take many forms of organizations. So, like government organization, as I mentioned before, they can take also form in public charity. In Europe, for example, public schools. If you want to focus on schools, public universities, hospitals. Public hospitals in Indonesia, I think public hospitals is usually attached to the local governments, and police, and then soldiers, army, Indonesian context. So those are the example of public sector organizations. But for the sake of this lecture, I'm going to focus on the government organization because, as I said before, they are well established, well regulated public sector organization, so that it's easier to illustrate the public sector organizations in general. So, up to this point, as we discussed earlier, so the main objective of the government or public sector organization is to provide services, public services. In corporations or private sector organizations, they also provide public service, but their main objective is to gain profit, although they provide services. But in the case of public sector or government, so the providing public services, but not making profit. Although you might have seen in some countries, for example, they experience surplus. For example, in Republic of Ireland, so they experience surplus, very huge surplus. Even during this surplus, they tried to avoid more tax revenue. So it's very interesting, isn't it? In the context of Republic of Ireland, but in the context of public sector organization in general, having surplus, not profit. Although surplus mean revenue is higher than the public expenditure, sometimes it is not good sign, because before you execute the public programs, public activities, you need to plan it. Because you need to plan it, so you need to have good assumption, good rationality, so that you can spend most of the public money for the sake of public welfare, for example. But if you spend less than you plan, sometimes it's not good sign. So it depends on your perspective. But sometimes it is very good sign if we look at from the perspective of efficiency. For example, they can provide or execute programs more efficient than before. So it's a good surplus. So it depends on the perspective. But gaining surplus probably is not the main objective of the public sector organizations in general, compared to private sectors. So that's why, in the context of public budget, our main topic today, planning activities is extremely important. I think in Indonesian context as well, because I was following some government budgeting processes since the planning activities, even a few months before the next fiscal year, they already finalize the planned activities of the budgets. And then the next key stage of the budget also is to implement the program. So how the the government plan the program, how they set the money that will be spent on those programs, and then how they implement the programs into practice, or how they realize the budgets. So that's what we call as implementation of the program. It doesn't stop at that point, but it will go to the next stage of the budget, which is to evaluate the program, how the program make impact to the citizen, to the local people. So if you look at, if you go back to the, or if you compare to the private sector organization or corporation, evaluating the program or evaluating the product or services is quite straightforward. So you just look at how satisfied the customer, they will buy it again to your company, to your goods or services. But in the context of public sector organization, or in this case governments, how do you evaluate the government programs? How do you know that you're satisfied with the government programs? Any thought? So I expect some discussion. Anyone? Any thought? How do you measure? How do you evaluate the government programs? As I mentioned before, let's say if you take the perspective of corporation, for example, if you to measure or to evaluate the program, to evaluate the product, to evaluate the process of the company's product or company's services, you can simply look at the customer satisfaction survey, for example, or just look at your customer, your existing customer, whether they want to rebuy again your product or services. But in the context of public sector, how do you evaluate it? Any idea? You as the citizen, for example, from Indonesian citizens, how do you evaluate? How do you say that the government program is good, bad, disappointing? Any idea? Chris, do you want to say something? Chris, how do you know that government program is good or bad?
Financial statement, Mr. Vogy.
Okay, that's good. From financial statement. Okay. More specifically, if you look at government financial statement, how do you see it? Do you see, or do you spot particular expenditure, or any idea?
Maybe from budgeting realization ya, dari realisasi anggaran itu loh Pak Vogy. Jadi bagaimana kita bisa melihat sejauh mana realisasi anggaran itu diberikan kepada citizen ya, untuk melihat sejauh mana kepuasan masyarakat dalam memperoleh barang atau jasa publik itu.
Okay, thank you, Chris, for responding my question. Yeah, actually, that's one of the tricky part of running public sector organization, running the governments, to see the satisfaction of the customer, which is the citizen. Okay, so how satisfied? I mean, let's say Chris provided a very good example. So they look at the government financial statements. The next question is, most of the people, not only in Indonesia, but also in the world, they don't understand financial statements, government financial statements. Okay, most of the people in this world, even if they do understand, how do you see the satisfaction of the citizen? Chris mentioned the budget realization. Okay, that's good, one of the financial indicators, but more broadly, so we need to see how satisfied the citizen. So based on literature, usually they will see whether the citizen is satisfied with the government program or not on the next election period, which is very, very late. For example, in Indonesia, whether the people of Indonesia are satisfied with the programs of the government, we will see it on the next 5 years, usually based on literature as well. So the next election, which is very, very late. If you don't satisfy with the programs, so you need to wait until the next election. So it's not good. That's why in some countries, for example, I think in some local government in Indonesia as well. So they did like a survey, a general survey, whether they like it or not, whether they're satisfied with the government or not. So it's more like asking the citizen directly. The next one, this is the next analogy that I like between the private and public sector. Let's say now you don't like with the product or services provided by the corporations, provided by the companies. So what would you do, Chris? For example, I will use you, okay, Chris, as my partner of discussion today. If you don't satisfy with a particular product from a company, what would you do?
Maybe complain.
Complain.
You can simply complain. All right. What else? You complain. What else? Can you buy from someone else?
Yes.
Can you buy
Not
from?
paying the product.
Not
Okay.
repeat order.
Not paying.
Don't repeat the order. Stop it.
Not repeat.
Buy from other producers. Buy from other corporations. The next one. What if you don't satisfy with your own government? You can complain. All right. You can complain and expect that your complaint will be follow up. We're not sure. We can complain. Complain from direct formal channel of the government. So you can send letter, just try, or you can complain from social media. Mention the executive, mention the
social media in Indonesia.
yes, make it viral.
Yeah,
Make it viral.
Yeah,
Make it.
that's good. Okay, but the problem is you cannot switch your government. in a private sector, you can simply switch your producer. You can simply switch your supplier. But what if you don't satisfy with your government? Can you switch your citizenship? It's not that easy. All right. Oh, I don't satisfy with this regime. Okay, please change the regime. No, you cannot. You cannot have that kind of privilege in the context of public sector. That's why. That's the uniqueness of public sector organization. If you don't satisfy, sometimes you need just to accept it sometimes and punish in the next elections. So okay, I'm gonna back to my slide. Sorry. Back to. Can you see my screen?
Yes, clear, Mr. Vogy.
Okay, I'll switch the display. All right, next one. What is budget? Have you heard about budget before? So, what is budget? Anyone? Can you say something? Have you heard about budget? I think if you're case even in the news, everyday news, you can easily read the budget of the government, the focus of the program of the government. What is budget? So this is budget in general. So a lot of definition about the budget. So I'm gonna take one definition from Neskova and Chen. This is one of recent papers about public budgeting. So essentially, public budget is an economic instrument. So as Neskova said, it's an economic instrument to determine which public programs will be funded and to what extent. There's very, very simple definitions of public budget based on many definitions appear in public budget literature. if I say public budget literature, it is not only accounting literature, because public budget is also being researched by scholars from many fields other than accounting fields, like public administration, like political science. So this is the very simple definition of public budget. It's an economic instrument. If the definition start with economic instruments, these instruments should be based mainly on economic assumptions. So we will see later on. Economic assumptions usually they have their own rationality based on data, and the main objective of the budget is also limiting expenditure to the revenue available and preventing overspending, as we discussed at the beginning of these sessions. So the main objective of the government is not making profit, is not making surplus, but their main objective is to prevent overspending, as also mentioned by some literature in public budgeting. So prevent overspending, but also control or limit the expenditure of the budget itself. So that's why, because limiting expenditure and preventing overspending based on economic assumptions, that's why many public budget see the budget process as rational decision making. So based on formal calculation and based on formal assumption. That's the very traditional and the very first view of public budgeting process in public budgeting literature. So I will start this discussion with rational process. This one, why public budget is very not only in Indonesia but anywhere in this world. So the first reason is because the budget plays very central role in public organization and the economy of a country. Okay, so we talk about of a country, not single organization, but the countries and sometimes the whole continents. For example, I took the share of the budget in the European continent. So a large share of Europe's GDP is managed through the public budget. So can you imagine the impact and the importance of public budget in the European continental in this case? And then even public expenditure in European countries averagely accounts for around 50% of GDP in 2014, and in Indonesia as well. I think public budgets, government budget plays very central role in the economy of the country. For example, if we see the salient or dominant program of the government, so one of the impact of these programs is you experience very tight austerity. I call it austerity. So very tight budget. You make the expenditure more efficient. They call it more efficient in many aspects of the government expenditure. And then, if I'm not mistaken, I read based in some news, this austerity, this budget cut is also affecting other public sector organizations. For example, state-owned universities. Public universities like Open University, I think they are also being impacted by this policy by the central government. So these policies from central government also, I think, affect the policy in local government in Indonesia, I guess, because I read some news that the budget cut or budget efficiency also occur in some local government, or if not most local government in Indonesia. So that's why public budget is extremely important in our daily life, even because it will impact your life, the government policy. So I think general spending in the budget based on Peterson 8 these general programs uh, they were being adopted by many countries in this world. For example, developmental spending, redistributive spending, and then allocational spending. So we start with development spending. So development spending is kind of expenditure in order to provide public services and public facilities for the citizen. For example, public transportation, public road, public highway, public motorway. So this kind of spending is called developmental spending. And in public housing, I think in Indonesia it's more like subsidized housing programs. In the UK, it's like council housing, because every council has asset. In this case, is houses, and then they will give to lower income earner, free or very cheap housing. And then some other economic development, for example, other capital expenditure in order to improve the public services or public facilities. So this is what we call as developmental spending. And the second one, what we call as redistributive spending. So redistributive spending, I think this is also the most familiar spending. I think most of you have heard this kind of spending before. So the objective of redistributive spending is to seek balance the scales as they transfer resources from affluent to low-income residents. So basically, it's like social welfare or safety net, economic safety net program, or like BLT in Indonesia, bantuan langsung tunai, or direct cash transfer. So this kind of program is expected to maintain the economic condition of the citizen in general. And then allocational spending. So Peterson said as housekeeping services. So this program it gives indirect impact to the citizen. Indirect, it's not direct, because it's more like administrative spending, like the salary of the civil servant, the salary of the police, fire and general administration. So for example, the salary of the police, so we give salary directly to the police, but the impact is indirect. For example, increase in the or decrease in criminal rate, for example, that's the indirect impact of the spending. So as I mentioned before, key budgeting stages. So you plan the program, you set the money available for each program. The second stage is the budgeting itself. So the plan the program first, and then set the money available to the program. And then the next one, after everything is agreed, you implement the budget and then evaluate the budget implementation. So these are general budget processes in this world. Okay, almost anywhere, almost in every government system. So most of the stage of the budget is like this one. So you plan the activities until you evaluate the implementation of the activities of the program. So it could cover 1 year, or it could cover also longer year, like 2 years or 3 years, or it depends on the program itself. So the next question, after we identify the key budgeting stages, who are the people? So actually many players involved in the budgeting process, but the main one, the key one, is the executive and the legislative body. So who are the executive? So the executive is like the bureaucrats, the technocrats. So Ms. Rita said in the beginning, the technocrats, the executive, the technocrats, the bureaucrats, the president, the minister, the head of local government, the mayor, the governor, the head of government division. So those are called executive. and the legislator, the representative, your representative. So if you want to have a say to the governments based on this system, so you need to say it to your legislators, and then you expect, okay, I don't want to say it will always be heard. It will always be heard, but it doesn't mean that it will be conveyed to the executive. So you need to say it to your legislators. And these are the key players, two key players. So we start with the executive. So if you look at the budgeting, they plan the program. So this is executive authority. Most of the plan program executive authority. I think in Indonesia, in planning the program, when the executive plan the program, legislator can also have a say on the plan program. So they will say it through what they call pokir. Probably have some of you here pokok-pokok pikiran of legislators. So this pokir will be considered by executive. If it is relevant, they will include the pokir. And then the executive then setting the available money for each program. So how much money they have and how they want to spend on each program, on each area, for example. So when they're setting the available money or available budget or available fund, so we discuss with the legislator. So we go to the next slide. So the proposed plan and the proposed budget is then sent to legislature for discussion and approval. This stage makes the budget not only a rational process, but they have also their own rationality. I prefer to call it their own rationality or political process instead of saying it irrational, because when I say it, has its own rationality, so they have their own logic. So it doesn't mean that it is not rational. So that's why I prefer to call it has its own rationality. And if you read the Weber's bureaucracy, they call it as substantive rationality. So it's not necessarily based on calculative process, based on economic assumption, but it will be based on substantive rationality, they call it. So based on the rationality of specific groups, the rationality of specific interests, the rationality of specific political process. So that's what we call a substantive rational, or its own rationality. After the budget is discussed and approved, if it is approved by the legislators, then executive implements the budget and then they evaluate the implementation of the budget along with the legislators. That's the common processes of the government budget. So as I said before, the proposed budget is sent to the legislator and then there will be discussions. This is the sense of the politic process or substantive rationality of the public budget. For example, the very, very common discussion or very, very dominant discussions of the government budget. If you look at the first questions there, how do you determine program X amount of pounds or of rupiah in Indonesia will be allocated to program A or B? So you have the money. How do you spend to the program? How much money you will spend to the program A? How much money you will spend to program B? So that's the very common discussion in the government budgeting process. Because when I was doing one of my research about public budget in Indonesia, I was also coming to some the budget things, and then I saw this kind of discussion, and this is one also the most dominant discussions. Even the next question, which might trigger the political process or debate, heat debate when I experienced one of the budget meetings. Where will those programs will be executed? let's say you agree with the legislator, so the executive agrees with the legislator. Okay, we will execute program A in specific region in Jakarta, for example. Okay, but some other legislator, they don't agree. Okay, we agree with program A, but don't execute in North Jakarta, for example, but instead execute it in South Jakarta. So this is kind of common discussions in the budget decision making. So that's why budget is political, is highly political process actually. Even based on my experience, okay, they prepare the budget, they prepare the plan and programs based on economic rationality, but how they agree mainly based on not economic, but political process. How they negotiate. So that's why Widalski, one of the prominent scholars in public budget, so in 1964, he said budget is highly political process. So even as Bu Rida mentioned at the beginning, the specific spending profile of the annual budget might reflect the political priorities of the one in power, the one who hold the power in government, for example. So this is the essence of public budget. In Indonesia, now, if you look at the most dominant program, one of the most dominant program in government is having free lunch. Okay, they call it MBG program. So this program might also reflect who has the program, might reflect the ones in power. It could come from the promise they made during the campaign, for example, so that it should be reflected on the priorities of the government, which will be translated into the budgets. So that public budgets are also tools for bargaining and allocating powers and resources. So they compete for the power, they compete and debate for the power, and then their main thing is to get resources. So go back again, why the debate is very heated in some cases. The reason is very simple, because their resources are limited. Any resources in this world is limited. So that's why budgeting requires sorting out the competing claims and involve inherent trade-off. So if you want to spend money in program A, you might need to reduce the money spent on program B. So that's why that's what we call as inherent trade-off. So that when the policymakers allocate more funds to some program, they have to decrease the funding to other services. This is the I call it the art of public budgeting processes. You cannot satisfy everyone. Okay, anywhere in this world, it's almost impossible to satisfy everyone. To satisfy electoral district for legislator, for example. So that's why, at the end of the day, so the budget represents the process, inevitably makes winners and losers in some policy constituents. Let's say, for example, I come from regional A. I represent regional A as legislators, and then Chris comes from regional B, and then he represents the regional B as the legislator. So it's also battle with me and Chris, how to get more resources to our electoral district, to our constituent. So this is also a highly political process in the public budgeting process. So that's why, as Bu Rida mentioned at the beginning and Bu Ratna mentioned at the beginning, budget is not about rational process, but or rational or formal decision making. It also a means for political gain for the sake of getting allocation or electoral interest. So if we look at the literature in public budget, especially the public budget process, so the political discussion, the mainly political discussion is between the executive and legislators. So that's the main focus of the budget discussion, which leads to some budgetary strategies. So this is, I will present you the fact in the field. So at least based on my research. So I published this research last year in public administration. So I found we found some common budgeting strategies when the legislators interact or discuss the budget with the executive. For example, the first one, the confrontation strategies. So the confrontation strategy is like if the executive disagree with the legislator, for example. So if legislator want more funding, so the executive will ask the legislator, okay, if you want more funding, what is your evidence? What is your assumption? What is your economic assumption, so that we can spend more money in your program? You will spend money on your constituent. So what is the data? What is your background? What is the argument? So that's what we call as confronting. Sometimes they blame each other. For example, legislator, hey, our constituents, our regional area, for a specific electoral district, for example, there are so many poor people there, and then the number of poor people is increasing over the year. So that's why they need the money. But the executive, it doesn't mean that they would agree with that kind of statement. So that in this kind of discussion, sometimes they blame each other. Oh, it's because of you, legislator. Oh, because of you, executive. You don't provide good program. You don't provide good input. So this is the first common strategies. So they confront and blame each other. And sometimes they can move to the second strategy. So they change the volume or locus of the program. So for example, say, okay, we can provide some amount of money to your area, to your constituent, but probably we change the volume. We can increase the volume. We cannot change the overall program, the substance of the program, but probably we can change the volume of the program. So this is like changing the volumes, or sometimes they can change the locus or the area of the programs between electoral district, for example. That's the second strategy. So they change the volume or the focus, the position of the program, not the substance of the program. Okay, they agree on the substance of the program, but they might change the position, the area of the program that will be implemented. And the next one, compromise. This is one of the common strategy also between the executive and legislature. They compromise. Okay, we will agree with you. Don't make more noise. Equal, don't make more noise. I will compromise. We will compromise. We will accommodate your what you say. Okay, we will give you more money. We will give you more programs. That's what we call as compromise. The last strategy, which is very, very difficult to investigate even in research, because this is very, very close area, is what we call as informal mechanism. In Indonesia, informal mechanism is one of the informal mechanism is called half room mechanism. Probably some of you have heard about setengah kamar. So I don't know why they call it setengah kamar, half room. It doesn't mean that they did the meetings in half room. No, I don't know what's the origin of this term, but they call it setengah kamar or half room meeting. I call it in my research. So this kind of informal mechanism usually attended by very specific person, limited person, and then highly figured person. Usually the head of political fraction or head of political parties, and that head of the government or the right hand of the government. So this mechanism is very highly it's not necessarily open. It's very difficult. Sometimes it's very difficult to see what is going on in a formal mechanism in half room meeting, for example. So at the end of the day, usually based by using this informal mechanism, so they would agree on the proposed budget usually. Okay, at the end of the day. All right. Before we move on, so I got a very interesting question from Burina. So in the context of developing countries, does dominance of political process in public sectors budgeting bring more positive impact, or does it rather increase potential or budgetary based appropriations? This is a very good one. The second one, in your opinion, how should the balance between rational approaches and political consideration be maintained? In the public sector budgeting process to ensure transparency. Okay, I will answer it at the end of I think at the end of this session, because I'm doing research on your last questions now. So I will move on. I will carry on with the next finding of well, my research and then some other research. So I took some research in leading journal, in top journal in accounting and political science. So one of the most expected finding of these practices, the rational process, is of course the budget allocation is not only based on rational decision making, but also for the sake of electoral district. How to allocate, how to get money, how to allocate the money to your constituent, your direct constituent, if you are legislators. So those are the findings from some good research published in leading journal like Kurupu, Routla, for example. And then in the context of pandemic, this is my research with my UGM colleagues, Irwan. So published in Accounting Forum, is a leading accounting journal. So even the allocation based on fear of law enforcement, because this is a very specific context, because in the context of pandemic, the allocation of the budget is very, very unique, because they don't follow the normal processes, but they need to make immediate reallocation. These immediate reallocation processes with adequate without adequate guidance, adequate regulations. So instead, they are afraid to allocate the budget, because they are afraid of being the subject of law enforcement. So this is very interesting finding. And then I am finding from my recent research as well. So okay, the budget is also affected by the political process, substantive rational process. But in my case, it is also a means for accommodating interests of strong familial groups, in particular local governments. So this is one of our interesting findings. So it is political process, but also you can use it sometimes to fulfill the interest of strong familial groups. So you can read my papers later on. So there's some interesting findings, recent findings from academic literature about public budgeting process. Next questions is for you all, for me, for you all as the public. What can you do as the public? This is like a fitting question, because my personal agenda as well. I think this agenda are also similar to agenda from other scholars, other accounting or other public administration scholars. How do you contribute to these processes? How do you contribute to make this process better, to make this process more accountable? Because in many literature, it has been argued that the most important feature or facet of the budget is its accountability, as also Ibu Rida asked me. How to make the budget more accountable? How to make the process more accountable, so that the public can monitor, can give input, can give critiques to the budgeting process, so that broader broader interests can be accommodated by the government. Up to now, based on recent literature and recent practices, so one of the good mechanism to make budget more accountable is through participatory budgeting, through public engagement. So what does it mean by public engagement? You, as the people, you as the city, you need to involve in the budgeting process. You need to come to public budgeting process. In Indonesian context, I think it's called as public hearing or musrembang in local government level, and then there is also public hearing at national level. So you need to come to that event and give your inputs to that event. However, in Indonesian context, the drawback, not the drawback, the limitation of this approach, I think, based on my personal experience when I did my research and then when I saw the announcement from the government, so is sometimes the public is not well informed with this kind of process. So in my experience in the past, I could come to the public hearing process because I saw the invitation from in one local government. So I saw the invitation and I asked them, can I come as the public, as the citizen to the process? Okay, and they said, yeah, you can come. And I came to the processes and I observed the process at that point. So the process was quite good when I joined the process. So a lot of discussion between the executive mainly with the public. In my case, there were many public representation, for example, from the NGO, from the corporation, for example, they were invited to the public hearing process. But another limitation of the process is we don't know whether your input, your question, your critics are accommodated by the government. We don't have the mechanism to monitor this kind of program or input or critics, for example. So that's the drawback of this approach. But public engagement is also occurring anywhere in this world. So participatory budgeting, basically, it was initiated not in developed countries, not in developed world or Western. So participatory budgeting was initiated by one of Brazilian local governments, and then adopted anywhere in this world, many places in this world. So this is one of the key mechanisms that you as the public can join to provide accountability. At least you have a say. At least you say something. Okay, to the government. And the research in participatory budgeting is still developing now. If some of you want to do research about public budgeting, you can also do research in participatory budgeting. So because it's still developing area, even in practices, so that many topic, many concern still be found in this area. And based on recent research as well, based on Rautla, Neskova, and Chen, participatory budgeting up to now is seen as one of the hallmark of the democratic legitimacy. So the public must involve, because public budget, it is the public money. So the public must involve in the process, how to manage, how to plan, how to execute your own money. You pay taxes. I think most of you, not most of you, I think all of you have paid tax, at least VAT, value added tax, or PPR tax in Indonesia. So this is very interesting mechanism. I see in some Indonesian local government, they also provide online monitoring process or online input process, so you can give input to the local government through online mechanism. If you don't want to come to the public hearing process directly or in person, you can use this online program or online apps in some local government in Indonesia, I think they provide this online system. And in my experience, I also in the past I tried to use one of the online system. The online system was quite good. So, but the problem is still the same. I don't know whether my voice, my input will be heard. So until the program appears in the public, so that's the drawbacks of the current mechanism. So the next one is my last. This is my conclusion of my this morning. So the public budget is very important. So anywhere when I teach accounting, not only public sector accounting, in accounting course in general, I always encourage my students to have your say something to the people. Sorry, not to the people, to the government, because it will affect your own life. Okay, public services provided by the government. So because you always use public services, of course you will be impacted by the government policy. So that's why you need to involve yourself. You need to give a say to governments as the citizen. And then, but you need to also assume that it is not only a rational process, it's not only neutral process based on mathematical assumption, based on economic assumption or calculations. It is also political arena. You need to aware of this process as well, because this is not necessarily neutral, rational, but it is also political arena with its own rationality, political rationality, so that the decision making of the public budget is not that straightforward. Instead, it's very complex interaction between the key players, how to accommodate the interest of the people. Can you imagine Indonesia, almost 300 million people? How do you accommodate? How do you see the interest of 300 million people? That's a very huge job. In the UK, they have only like 60 or 70 million, but in Indonesia, so you have 300 million people. So that at least public, you as the citizen, is expected to play your role to demand accountability and scrutinize the process and the implementation of the government program. So that, as I said before, you need to participate in the process, at least from the public hearing process. So I think that's the end of my lecture. Some of my references, top journals. So if you are interested with the references, I will send references to you, the list of reference. Thank you very much. So, Chris, your turn now.
Okay, many thanks to you, Dr. Vogy Gautama Buanaputra, for your very comprehensive and insightful presentation. The material not only explains the complexity of rationality and politics in the public budgeting process, but I think also shows how important it's to understand which is in control of fiscal decision making. Next, we will enter into a question and answer session and interactive discussion. This is an opportunity for all of us to explore further the things that are still confusing or that we want to criticize from the presentation that has been delivered. I invite participants to submit questions directly through open camera and your own mic, or can also write them in the chat box. Please state your name and your institution or your background, and the questions are directed to which point of the material delivered earlier.
Chris, okay, while we are waiting for another question, so I think I'm gonna answer Bu Rida questions because it's already listed 2 questions there.
Okay.
So I'll go with the first question. So in the context of developing countries, does political dominance of political process in public sector budgeting brings more positive impact, or does it rather increase or the potential of budgetary misappropriation? So this is very common research questions about public budget in the context of emerging economies. So I prefer emerging economies instead of developing countries. So this is very common research question, and then many research. So I will answer your question based on research on the first one. So many research has been done actually on this topic about the political process in emerging economies context. I will, for example, I will take one of the research. One of the paper I cited on my presentation. I think from Kurupu. That's in the context of Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka, if I'm not mistaken, Sri Lanka is one of emerging economies in the world. So in the context of this country, so as we know, they have rational process, but the political process became dominant in this context because of strong political interest in this context, in this research, both from executive and legislators. Coincidentally, in this context, in Kurupu papers, in Sri Lanka, both the executive, the head of government, and then the legislators, they have similar interest. The budgeting process was used as a means to get re-elected both the head of the government and then the legislator, so that the political process is more dominant in this process. So does it become misappropriation? I don't think so, but the allocation, so the allocation is formal, is legal, but they allocate more money into more promising constituents instead of based on rational assumption. For example, based on for example, the poor people, the number of poor people in particular area, the number of public facilities available in particular area, whether they have good public services or not based on that assumption, based on which area is more promising for the next electoral district, electoral period. So there's in this case, it's not misappropriation, but it's more influenced by the political interest. In my case, for example, another case, in Indonesian case, so I will take my reasons, my own reasons. Does it have positive impact? Interestingly, in my case, the answer is yes. It has very good positive impact. The second one, potential misappropriation, probably not misappropriations, but in my case, they can use it to accommodate the interests of family groups. So directly and indirectly, the budget. So that's my finding. Why? Because they have the power to control the budgeting process. That's why this interest can be accommodated, the familial interest, because they have the regulations, they have the power to influence the budgeting process. So the first question, so my conclusion to your first question is, it depends on the context, it depends on the institutional environment as well. So, but in some emerging economies, so the rational process is still dominated by the political process, because as you know, they don't have good institutional environment, so that more political process is more dominant. But in my opinion, political interest, it doesn't mean it's negative. Sometimes it could be positive. So political process, good political will can also result in good outcome for the program of the government. So positive impacts can also be influenced by good political willingness, good political powers. So that's my conclusion to your first question, because there is no definite single answer to your first question. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. But in my experience, if there is missed budget appropriation, they usually this kind of topic is usually investigated by the fraud scholar. So it's more like fraud. In my area, the big budget misappropriation, sometimes I read some budget misappropriation because of weak democratic environments, weak institutional environments, weak law enforcement. So there was budget misappropriation in some developing countries, some emerging economies, but they were not executed, they were not enforced by the law because of this weak law enforcement. So in some situation is still probably. That's the first one. Hopefully I answer the first one. The second one, in my opinion, in your opinion, how should the balance between rational approach and political consideration be maintained in public sector budget? It's actually, the second one is, I think, the most difficult questions faced by not only me, but any scholars in public budget. How to balance the rational process and political process or political consideration of public budgeting. So probably not to balance, but how to make them harmony. Because to make balance, so I assume balance is like 50-50. To make them more harmonious, okay, the process cannot be the political process cannot be eliminated on the one hand, but this political process should also be having like rational foundation, rational argument, rational background, so that the what is it called? When you propose your political interest, when you use your political interest as the politician, you need also to have some economic assumption, rational assumption. That's, I think, mechanism that I propose as how to balance the consideration between rational and substantive rational process. Let's say, okay, you want to create two programs, for example. You want to force the development of infrastructure in Indonesia. This is an example. Okay, this is an example. You want to force the infrastructure development in Indonesia, or you want to focus on another program, for example, some basic program to provide freelance program to most of the people of Indonesia. So comparing these two programs, I think you need also good academic research, good assumption, good argument based. So I advise based on research, so that if you choose either program, you have good rationality to discuss it to the public, to say to the public, okay, I want to focus on this freelance program, or I want to focus on carrying on the building infrastructure in Indonesia, especially in Eastern Indonesia, for example, because I have this data, I have this formal process, I have this formal assumption, rational assumption, based on research, based on scientific assumption, so that I prefer this program to be carried on. Although this is also your political agenda. So the same also applies for freelance program, for example. Okay, you have this data, you have this data about poor people, for example, needs to be help, needs to be assisted. The data, you have the data, and then show it to the public. Hey, this is the data. This data based on our research, or this data based on our formal survey, for example. That's why we want to focus on this one, this program. This is political bargaining, political decision making, but we have the assumption, we have the data. So I think that's my suggestion, and this occur in developed economies, So although they have most of the program, they are, even in the UK, they are highly political, but proposing these highly political programs, they also back up by good reasons, good assumptions. Although many people still disagree with some programs, so some UK government program, for example, but at least they show, okay, this is my assumptions. That's why we want to focus on particular program. So I think that's my suggestion, because it's I think it's very difficult to make the balance, but we have some mechanism to make the harmony between the political process and the rational assumption of the budgeting process. And I'm still doing research in this one, how to make budget more accountable, because for example, Chris at the beginning, when I asked him a question about my topic, Chris mentioned that to evaluate the government program, we look at the government financial statements. Okay, that's the formal mechanism. So how do you see the government spend the money at the end of the period? We need to see the financial statement of the government. That's a good one. That's the formal one. And then the problem is, the first problem is, based on research as well, not many people, even most people, they don't understand government financial statement. Even if you ask highly educated people, probably they don't fully understand the government financial statement. Even if you don't learn how the government accounting process work, and then how to interpret the government financial statements. So that's the first one. The second one, the problem is, if you look at the budget implementation based on financial statement, is too late. It's already realized. Let's say if you disagree with particular program, it's already realized. So that's why my current research, I focus on more on how to make the budget as the main, as Ms. Rida also asked. The main, one of the main accountability mechanism is not only reporting what you have done, but you need also to make it public, to make it open. What you are doing is the budget. Okay, so through the year, since the planning process, you need to make the budget open. You need to make anyone can see the budget through the process until you evaluate the program. Because one of the accountability mechanism of the budget is how you as the government realize what you have planned. Let's say you plan 100 program. Did you realize it? How you realize it? And then what is the quality of the program you have realized? This is also one of the accountability mechanism of the budgets, not necessarily based on financial report. If you look at financial report, you couldn't simply see this kind of process. How you realize the budget? So you need to see the plan programs. You need to see how they implement the programs, and then you need to see how they evaluate the programs. That is such of accountability of the budgets. This is very simple things, but not many study has been done in this area. Why? Because most of the studies in government accountability mechanism, they tend to focus on the first one, financial report. This is the easiest and the most common accountability mechanism for government. Or the second one, they see the accountability mechanism from the perspective of audit, how the auditing work in government organization, how the auditor audit the government financial statement. That's the focus of assisting research if we talk about government accountability mechanism. But in the context of public budget, so the accountability mechanism of the budget, usually they tend to focus on public participation of the budget, which is the participatory budgeting, they call it. So, but the overall process, not many has been done, not many studies, and then I'm doing this study at the moment as well. How to investigate the accountability mechanism, especially to external. That's my answer for 2 questions. Hopefully, I answer Bruni the questions.
Thank you, Dr. Vogy. Mrs. Rida, is there any feedbacks? Enough. Mr. Vogy, I'm interesting about your understand government financial report to citizenry. Dr. Vogy, what are the most effective ways to ensure that citizens have access to and understand government's finance reports? And then, uh, how can we make public financial information not only available but also meaningful and accessible to ordinary people?
Okay. All right. Thank you, Chris, for the question. So it's about understanding of government financial statements. How to make the people or the public understand government financial statements? I think that's very difficult question to answer because can you say even in the one who has accounting background, it doesn't mean that they understand government financial statements because this is also critics for the curriculum of accounting anywhere in this world. So you don't talk much about public sector financial reporting. Okay. In Indonesia, that's why I appreciate at the beginning. I appreciate the Open University. So I think for the first or probably the only one in Indonesia who has public sector accounting program. Okay, that's very interesting. This is one of the effort to make people understand government financial statements. But the problem is this kind of program is very rare anywhere in this world, not only in Indonesia. That's why it's very difficult to make the public understand financial statement in general. Okay, even accounting, the one who has accounting background, I don't think all of them understand government financial statements. That's my opinion. So that's why the one we could do, I think this is also the input for the government anywhere in this world, not only Indonesia. So that's the job of the government to provide more simple information about financial reporting, okay, about the budget itself. So I want also to appreciate the Ministry of Finance of Indonesia. If you look at their Instagram, their social media, if you see the ministry, they try to communicate the budget in very interesting way, in very simple way. They make graph, they make animations. You can open their Instagram, so they can they gave you some figure, very simple figure. It is readable almost to everyone, so that okay, I understand. This is the focus of the program. That's the main spend of the program, the main spending of the program. This is the main revenue of the government. So this kind of initiative is needed, okay, anywhere in this world, because I think it is almost impossible to make many people understand government financial statement in this world. Even every government, so they usually have their own format, their own term, their own logic in financial reporting, because although we have IPSAS, it's not applied anywhere in this world. So that's why one of the main solution I suggest is to the government itself. Provide more readable, more simple, more simpler explanation, figure or video. I think some local government, if I'm not mistaken, I saw some videos, 2-minute videos explaining about their budget, 2-minute videos about explaining their achievement in the budget and financial report. So this is good attempt, I think. Instead of making them understand the financial report, I think it's almost impossible. Okay, it's like making Ramadan temple in one night. Okay, that's my answer, Chris. Have I answered your questions, all of them?
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Vogy.
Did I answer all questions? Okay.
Answer my all question, Dr. Vogy. Thank you very much, Dr. Vogy. Okay, next participant, maybe does anyone want to ask Dr. Vogy?
Yeah, you can ask me in Bahasa Indonesia, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay. Maybe from young lecturer in
Yeah.
public sector financial accounting Universitas Terbuka, Miss Mela, Miss Vivi, Miss Ria.
Yeah, they are from public sector accounting program
Yes.
specifically.
Yes.
The one you mentioned.
Public financial accounting. Sorry.
Okay.
Public
Okay, that's fine.
financial accounting program studi. Yes. Um,
Apa siapin soal? Udah tadi.
Hello everyone.
Iya tadi Chris juga udah
Mr.
nanya.
Vogy, I want to ask again.
Yeah, maybe another one.
What's the conditions or institutional frameworks maybe are necessary to ensure that rationality can prevail over political maneuvering?
Kirim di YouTube ada.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. Institutional framework. Yeah, institutional foundation. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this is very similar to Burida questions. I think how to maintain the balance between the rational process and then the political process of the government budgeting process. As I said before, is almost impossible to eliminate the political process of this budgeting. And from my research, from my experience, and from my reading to public budgeting literature as well, is this process even is dominant. Political process is dominant. So my suggestion is the first one, as you mentioned, you need to have strong institutional environments. For example, the first one, strong regulations, strong law enforcement to prevent the political interest to become abuse. Okay, I don't say political process is not good. No, political process is also good, but how to prevent this political intention to become abuse of power? So you need strong institutional environment, strong democratic environment, strong law enforcement, strong regulation, and complete regulation. And that's the first one. And the second one, to make it balance, as I mentioned before, to make them harmony. So you cannot eliminate the political process. Instead, you need in every political interest, it's better to have rationality, economic rationality, or formal rationality. As I explained the illustration, let's say you have political interest, you want to carry on with infrastructure program instead of other program. So that's your political interest. But this political interest, I suggest, need to be backed up by good or strong research. Okay, in developed economies, in developed countries, so government decision making, they are usually backed up by good academic research. Okay, not necessarily based on someone agenda, but it's based on research as well. So that's my suggestion.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Vogy. Dr. Vogy, in the chat box from Chatnika DA, could we get the material? Maybe Dr. Vogy, can you share your material? This is about political and rationality public sector budgeting.
Is it recorded?
Yes,
Chris?
recorded.
Yeah, you can watch the recorder. Okay,
Yeah.
later.
Okay. And then from Prince Orsi, Dr.
Yes.
Vogy, how public participation influence the budgeting process in the public sector?
Yeah. All right, thank you, Prince. Hopefully, this is the real Prince coming from Indonesia. Yeah, I mentioned public participation, public participatory budgeting before. So, how the public participation influence the budgeting process? So that's why I encourage you to always involve in budgeting process because how it's influenced it depends on how you say during the public hearing process. How do you convince the government, okay, during the public participation process? So let's say, okay, oh, I want in front of my house or the road very close to my house is very very bad. So I suggest you to fix that road because I paid the tax. That's how you influence. Okay, so hopefully it is being heard by the government. So and then at the end of the day, you expect the government will fix the road close to your house. That's you influence the budgeting process of the government. You come there, you have your say based on the data, at least based on not based on your emotion, but it's based on the data, based on what you see as the citizen, not necessarily based on fact. It is based on facts, but not necessarily based on research. Okay, because sometimes you don't. Some people probably they don't understand research. You just simply say what you want to say based on the fact, based on what you see surrounding you, and tell the government, this is my problem, this is our problem, this is our community's problem. So fix this problem because you have paid the tax, and then because that's your job as a government to give us, to provide us public services. That's how you influence the budgeting process. And you expect it is being heard. How do you know it is being heard or not? Let's see the next year, probably. Whether the road close to your house is being fixed or not. Okay, that's how you say. That's why I said, make the budget more accessible, make the budget to become more accountability mechanism. It is also one of the government homework anywhere in this world. Because waiting 1 year, 2 years, probably too late. So many people might experience accident on the road that is breaking down. So that that's how to influence the budgeting process. Not only budgeting process, but that's how to influence the public policy process. Because public policy will be translated to the budget. That's my answer, Chris. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Vogy. Prince, maybe is there any feedback to Dr. Vogy? Okay. Dr. Vogy, I think the time is 16 p.m. clock. Maybe the session is almost over, Dr. Vogy. Maybe I will continue to MC. Today's discussion open our eyes. The public budgeting can be separated from the context of power. Rationality is important, but without integrity and political control, it becomes important. Thank you to the speakers, Dr. Vogy, and all participants to their active contribution. See you at the forum session 2 on Friday, May. Okay, and then the session can be viewed on YouTube FAP. Next, I will hand over to my MC, Miss Mela. Please continue the session to take a picture and closing the session. My ICT, please, you can give precision for the session. Okay, Miss Mela.
Oke, please open your camera. Buka kameranya, boleh kita capture dulu.
Capture the moment.
Oke ya. Ya. Minta tolong ICT ya. Dan Vivi for capture this moment. Oke.
Calm down.
1, 2, 3. This is the first sections. And the next, 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you for Mr. Chris, and thank you for Mr. Vogy Gautama Buanaputra. Respected audience, we have reached the end of the seminar Public Sector Budgeting, Rational versus Political Process. This discussion that took place today has greatly enriched our insight into how to the process of preparing a public budget is not only a technocratic process based on rationally, but also full of complex political dynamics. On behalf of the organizing committee, we would like to express our deepest gratitude and enrich the speaker for their in-depth and inspiring presentations, Mr. Vogy Gautama Buanaputra, the moderator who guided the discussion very well, Mr. Chris, and all participants who attended and contributed to today's discussion. See you at the next scientific activity opportunity. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon and see you all.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Mr. Vogy.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Oke, terima
Okay,
kasih.
thank
Pak.
you
I'll
so
see you again on
much.
Friday.
Okay,
Thank you.
we meet again.
Leave. And broadcast.